Hi there, Giovanni here at fraptools, and today we're taking a look at 4 unconventional clock ideas for the USTA sequencer coming up. Okay, so the first idea is of course using SAPÈL's random clock. Now we are using the regular clock as the main clock for all of our 4 tracks, but I can simply use the random clock output to obtain a randomized sequence. Now, the clock is working in less than mode, but I can even set it to work in more than mode for an even more unpredictable behavior. The cool feature of SAPÈL's random clock is that there is always an underlying regular pulse that we can experience in other point of our patch, and it is the main clock, which we can patch, for example, to this Falistri or this Falistri here, and patch it, for example, to control another parameter of our BRENSO. And the same is true also for the more than mode. Now, even if we use random clocks, we can still take advantage of the stage length. The only difference is that the stage length will be unpredictable, since it will take, in this case, 4 clock impulses to move from this stage to the other, but we don't know when these 4 are going to happen. Still, USTA will wait until 4 clocks have passed. Now, it is very important to remind that for random clock experience, we recommend using the ratio of 1:1 or higher. So clock division, for example, we can use 2:1. But we don't advise using higher ratios like 1:4, because USTA might get a little bit frantic with this irregular stream of impulses. Well, of course you can use it if that's what you're after, but... Okay, tip number 2. Instead of using SAPÈL's clock, we are gonna scale the green oscillator of the BRENSO to LFO mode, and we're gonna use its square wave output as a clock. Nothing too fancy right now, but if we rotate the integrator, we will randomize this pitch, which is not entirely true, since in this case we are simply using the volt per octave signal that we use to change this oscillator's note to change by the same amount the clock speed. As a matter of fact, if we had a simple sequence with the same track, with the same note on every stage, it would play a regular beat, and the higher the note, the faster the clock. So higher note will have faster clocks, and the slower note, slower clocks. Also in this case, we can take advantage of the clock ratio, of the variable stage length, and we can still take advantage of higher ratios like 24:1 or up to like in clock division, or just keep it simple and play 1:1. Now it is cool because we can use the LFO as a modulation within the BRENSO to animate our timbre. And it will be in sync with the clock because it is, as a matter of fact, the very clock. We can use even other waveforms like the sawtooth. And if we set all the time units to 1, our sawtooth can become almost like an envelope. We need to rectify it and play just in the positive domain, but still get the idea. Okay, so another idea still uses SAPÈL's main clock output to clock the USTA sequencer, but in this case we are gonna do some cross-patching and program, for example, a CVB track, which can be bipolar. We set it to 0 volt and patch it to this input here, which controls SAPÈL's clock speed. Now you will notice that if I rotate the knobs down, the clock will slow down, and if I rotate them up, it will go faster, which leads us to two considerations. First, we can set every stage to have a different length, like we did before with the BRENSO, but with no correlation between pitch and speed. The second consideration is that we can randomize this behavior using the variation index and the range. There is also a third consideration. We can program our clock in a separate track. We can our clock modulation signal. For example, we can use CVB of track 2 and set it to bipolar as well. Then we are going to bring it to 0. There. Now the cool thing is that we can set track 2 to a much slower ratio. So if our track 1 is 16 time units, we're going to set it to, well, for now we may even not need to play with the ratio, because we can just set our stages to 16 time units, so that a single stage of track 2 corresponds to a whole pattern on track 1. And at this point we can change our values up and down. Here Now, at every stage of track 2, SAPÈL will have a different clock speed, and it will be almost perfectly in sync with our pattern 1 of track 1. Now, we can even set a single stage of track 2, a single stage sequence, and just play with the variation index and the range of CVB. So at every cycle, USTA will generate a new value that will change the clock speed. And we can play with different lengths, so we can split our pattern in more parts with different speeds at every cycle. And finally, our fourth tip is a variation on the famous Krell Patch. So we're going to use our looping Falistri as main clock. We use the end of fall gate output patch to USTA's clock input. We can patch the output to control, for example, the square shaper. I'm gonna use the inverted version because I like it slightly more. And instead of controlling the amplitude, I can patch the integrated version of this very envelope to control the wave folder circuit. And now the cool part. We still have our CVB randomized CVB track from the previous patch, which uses the variation index and range. Then we can patch it to the volt per octave input to control both the signals at the same time. And we can program another CVB track, for example, to further change the timbre. For example, the linear FM input. And to be even more closer to the original Krell spirit, we can program a one-note sequence and then randomize it like this, but still in tune with our scale. Then we can go to our track 2 and set the CVA mode to raw and bipolar as well. And we can even repeat the setting for track 3 and track 4. Now it gives us a new source of random clocks, of random controls. So I'm gonna raise the variation index and the range for every stage here on track 2, and I can patch it, for example, to control the attack time. And I can even use it as a negative offset to make the envelope snappier. This is it. I hope you found these 4 ideas useful and inspirational. If you have more ideas or more requests, let me know in the comments below. And I will see you next time for more patch tips.